These are 13 of the best exercises to get rid of nervy shoulder and arm pain like thoracic outlet syndrome. I'll be covering everything from exercises for improving your scapula to the best exercises to do in the gym. But first, let's go through the most efficient exercises for decompressing the nerves and blood vessels, starting in the neck. Even though there are multiple muscles within the neck, only a few of them will actually help to support the head while the others hang out and do nothing. Well, after years and years of this happening, all those muscles that are helping support the head will become overworked and tight, resulting in them compressing on your nerves and blood vessels. So to help those overworked muscles relax and decompress, you need to strengthen those other muscles so they can help support the head. And to do that, we're going to be performing an exercise called chin tucks. Start off by lifting up your chest and dropping your shoulders back and down. This is going to help position the ribs and the neck in the proper position. From here, pull your chin straight back as if you're sliding it on a table. Hold it there for a few seconds before you return back to your starting position and repeat for your desired repetition. Now, another spot for the nerves and blood vessels to become compressed is going to be in the shoulder region. And again, this is thanks to us constantly using our arms in front of us, which will naturally shorten the chest and the shoulders, which may then create your nervy pain by compressing on the nerves and blood vessels in there. So to help you fight off that internal rotation in your shoulders, this next exercise is designed to strengthen the deep external rotators of the shoulder. To strengthen your external rotators, grab a mini band and wrap it around your hands with your palms face up and elbows tucked in. Now, normally you will pull the band apart, hold it for a few seconds, and then let it return. But if you do this, then you may be engaging the posterior deltoids, which is not the deeper rotators that we want to target. So to target the deeper external rotators, all you need to do is bring your elbows up in front of you, which is going to put the posterior delts on a slight stretch, allowing the deeper external rotators to take over the movement basically. Now let's step this up a notch by combining these two exercises into one. What you're going to do is face the wall while wrapping a mini band around your head and grabbing the other end with your arms. From here, slip your arms inside of that mini band while also performing an isometric contraction. You should have tension on the band within the neck and an external rotation. Now from here, all you're going to do is perform chin tucks in order to contract those deep cervical flexors while also isometrically contracting those shoulder external rotators. Make sure to hold each contraction for about 1 to 2 seconds before you return back to your starting position and repeat. Now, I have worked with a lot of people who have thoracic outlet syndrome and other similar shoulder issues, and one of the biggest problems I tend to see is limited mobility within the scapula. Whether it's retraction, depression, or whatever, weak muscles around the scapula can create limitations within the shoulder movement, which may also be an indirect cause for your thoracic outlet syndrome. And that's why these next 6 exercises are focused on strengthening the muscles around the scapula. Starting with the easiest movement to master, scapular retraction. Scapular retraction is when the scapula is pulled closer to the spine, while protraction, the opposite, is when the scapula is moving away from the spine. But why do you want to start off by learning retraction? When it comes to thoracic outlet syndrome and shoulder issues in general, most people are going to have a stronger protraction than a retraction. And the more protraction within the scapula can lead to more internal rotation within the shoulder, leading to more nervy compression. Now look here, do you see how the shoulder actually sits inside of the scapula? This means you can do as many shoulder external rotator exercises as you want. But if that scapula isn't able to fully retract with the shoulder externally rotating, then you're not going to be able to get your full range of motion to relieve your pain. Now, the main muscle you want to strengthen here is going to be the rhomboids, and we can get started with the first exercises known as the one-arm scapular retraction. Anchor a band and grab it with your palm facing inwards. Your arm should be starting across the body with your scapula in full protraction, the opposite of what we're doing. Now, from here, pull the band across the body as far as you can with the goal of getting your scapula as close as you can to the spine. Hold this position for 3 to 5 seconds before you return back to your starting position and repeat. And a bonus tip here, focus on pulling the scapula first, which will then pull the arm across the body, as opposed to focusing on pulling the arm across the body, which will then push the scapula closer to the spine. We want to initiate the movement with the rhomboids, not with the arms. And once you've mastered this one movement, we can move into Athlete X's favorite exercise, the front pulls. Grab your band and anchor it at eye level as you hold both ends with your hands. Now, in terms of your grip, try to grab the band with your thumbs facing down and then internally rotate your shoulder. So now that the end of the band or the rope you're using is pointing up. This is going to help put your shoulders into a more external rotation and a proper position. From here, pull the band towards the head as you open up the arms, ending in a flexed bicep position. Hold this for a few seconds before you return back to your starting position and repeat. Once again, the focus here isn't on pulling the band with your hands. The focus here is using the rhomboids to pull the scapula, which then pulls the arms back. Now, if you want a more in-depth tutorial on how to perform these face pulls, then I'll leave Athlete Nexus video in the description below, after you finish mine though. Now, how many of you have a knot or a trigger point in the upper traps, right around this area? Chances are most of you, which brings me to the second movement pattern I have noticed, which is too much elevation and not enough depression. When your scapula becomes elevated, not only will you naturally develop trigger points within the upper traps, but it also limits your range of motion in the shoulder by blocking it anytime you want to bring your arm up. And if the shoulders can't open up, then it can't decompress your nerves and blood vessels, creating your pain. And this is why we're going to be strengthening the lower traps, because it's going to be fighting off that overused elevation and help pull that scapula down into depression. And the first exercise is going to be ITYs. Start off by lying face down on an inclined bench with your arms hanging off the side. Make sure your feet are planted and your core and glutes are tight throughout the entire movement. Now raise your arms to your side with your thumbs pointing up. Hold this for a few seconds and then return back to your starting position. Once again, you're focusing on pulling that scapula down and back in order to create that movement, very similar to what you did for the rhomboids. It may even help you a little bit to practice going up into elevation and then straight down into depression so you can see what it feels like in order to perform that movement. Do you see how you should be strengthening the lower traps, depression and retraction, which you can see much easier with the next exercise? Start by hanging off a pull-up bar with your arms extended overhead. Now from here, all you're going to do is pull your scapula down and back. Hold this for a few seconds before you return back to your starting position and repeat. A quick tip here, if you want to focus more on your depression, put your arms up straight overhead. Or if you want to focus on the retraction and the depression, then have your arms in a wider grip in order to achieve that movement. Now, another common problem I tend to see with people who have thoracic outlet syndrome is going to be a winged scapula, which is when the lower angle of the scapula pops out and whenever you're in a protracted state. Well, if you've ever tried to work on your winged scapula before, then chances are you know you need to strengthen your serratus anterior. But the problem here isn't that the serratus anterior isn't able to fire up. The problem is that the pec minor is firing it up too much. This is known as synergistic dominance, when one muscle is doing most of the work for the actual movement versus the other muscles that are supposed to contribute. Just like how there's some muscles in the neck that are doing more work than others, the same principles happening here in the scapula. Except now in this case, it's the pec minor that's doing all the work and taking over while the serratus anterior isn't able to participate. So to help activate that serratus anterior, we need to help relax that pec minor. And we can do that by using massage. Take a 5-inch ball or a massage gun and begin massaging the top corner of the chest for 2 to 3 minutes. You can either perform some static pressure, micro movements, or even a pin and stretch. Now, to help that pec minor relax, you need to find the most tender spot you can find and then just simply hang out there until it goes away. This means you actually have to pay attention to the pain, by the way. And once you've done that for about 2 to 3 minutes, the pec minor should be relaxed a little bit, allowing the serratus anterior to start engaging more during these exercises. And this first exercise is perfect for anybody who has some anger issues, which is called the band punch. Anchor one end of the band at the height of your chest and grab the other end as you face away. Now position your feet with your band side back and the other leg in front of you. Now from here, punch in front of you and reach as far forward as you can in order to engage that serratus anterior. Let the arm come back to the starting position and then repeat. And of course, if you want to get some more power behind those punches for whatever reason, all you need to do is make sure you rotate those hips and allow that to initiate the punch versus just trying to use your arm to do the movements. Now, another exercise that's great here to engage the serratus anterior is going to be the push-up plus. Get into the starting position of a push-up, either on your knees or on your toes. Now, keeping your arms straight and your core tight, pull your scapula back into retraction to lower your body just a few inches. From here, pull your scapula forward into protraction as far as you can in order to engage that serratus anterior. Note notice that the only movement here is coming from the scapula and not the elbows. Now you have just worked all the muscles to decompress the nerves and blood vessels, and you also worked the different muscles to improve your scapular motion. Now we can combine all these exercises into one in order to perform some compound exercises that's perfect for the gym. The first exercise is going to be bent over rows with abduction. Wrap a band around your arms with your palms facing together as you bent over slightly, just like a bent over row. Now from here, pull your arms straight back and down while keeping your shoulders externally rotated and pulled out. Hold this position for a few seconds before you return back to your starting position and then repeat. And of course, you can take this up a notch by putting a weight in each hand in order to create some resistance for those rows. Now this next exercise comes from Athlete X and it plays off the front pull. Get back into the front pull position and perform the movement as usual. Except now, when you get into that full contraction, you're also going to press your arms up into the air. Hold this position for a few seconds before you return back to your starting position and repeat. Now this last exercise actually comes from Squat University and is perfect for shoulder mobility. Anchor a band to a low point and kneel in front of it with the arm you want to train directly in front of the band. Now go ahead and grab that band and start off by performing some basic retractions of the scapula. Go ahead and do this a few times just to get that motion down. After 2 to 3 reps, whenever you get back into that full retraction, you're then going to move into external rotation by bringing that arm straight up. Again, go ahead and do this for a few reps, reversing the order as you go back to your starting position. Now from here, get back into the full contraction, but now you're going to press the arm straight up in order to finish the movement with a shoulder press. Once again, reverse the order back down as you go back to your starting position and then repeat. And just like all the previous exercises, focus on using that scapula to perform the movement along with the shoulders at the same time. Now I do have some good news and some bad news. The good news is for a lot of you, this is all you're going to need in order to start feeling some relief. But for the rest of you, the bad news is you may need to do some extra work before strengthening these muscles. And that extra work is to actually massage and release all the tight muscles creating your compression in the first place, which you can learn how to do by watching the video in the top right corner.